Hi, Assalamualaikum. I hope I'm live. Let me just readjust. Okay, so my sincere apologies because I was supposed to start doing this live feed at 6:30. Uh, like every first time you do it, I've had technical problems of all sorts. So it's taken me a good 15 or 18 minutes to sort out, and perhaps should have done it earlier. Excuse me if I cough. I am currently suffering with a bit of a cold, but I didn't want to cancel today because my next few weeks are crazy, and I just wanted to make sure that I do this live feed because otherwise I just didn't know when I would reschedule. Um, Now I have put down that the live feed is from 6:30 to 8:30. However, it is down to depending on how many people are here live, which I suspect, given the late start, there may not be many people watching it right now. But obviously, I've allowed that for any questions to be asked. Now, if you are watching this as a recording, that's not a problem. Just put down your questions in the comments box, and I will get back to you. So, let me start from the beginning. Who am I? So I'm going to kick off with I'm basically going to take myself slightly on the side. Right. So Experience Pakistan is the name of my company. What do we do? So, well, what are we all about? So it was interesting because I was at an event last week with Responsible Travel. It's a kind of Responsible Travel is a platform that I'm a member of with many other operators. And what was evident when you spoke to a lot of other people who have kind of gone into the tourism business in terms of promoting holidays and destinations, everyone has a story. There's very few people that are there just for the commercials. There's a lot of stories behind kind of wanting to change narratives, change perceptions, whether that's for Somalia, Sudan, in my case, Pakistan. But it was also a genuine desire to want to kind of give back to help communities in those areas. And I suppose that's part of the beauty of being a member of Responsible Travel, because those of us who are members have taken a commitment to ensure that we aren't just promoting tourism, but we are doing it in a socially responsible way, looking after the local environment to ensure that's protected. But more importantly, it's also about ensuring that we are giving back and we are helping the local communities genuinely. And to be a member of Responsible Travel, there's a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork you have to do behind the scenes, quite rightly, to ensure that you are doing tourism in a responsible way. Slight digression, as I do with all my kind of slides, I've jumped ahead. But ultimately, why do we travel? Most of us travel because really money returns, but time doesn't. You know, one of the key things I think is paramount is how short time we have on this planet. And actually, when you sit back, what it is that you remember is the fond memories that you've made along the journey when you've been traveling, but the all the fantastic people that you met. You know, very few of us will buy a Mercedes and 5 or 6 years later ponder about that great purchase. Actually, what we're probably okay, we might look at photo albums and think, oh, you know, what great memories we have of the car. But ultimately, you know, the real kind of valuable memories are created from holidays. So, you know, who are we? What do I do? So, Experience Pakistan is a company that I set back in 2018, and it was very much about putting Pakistan in people's radar, changing perceptions and changing narratives about the country, but also to make Pakistan accessible. Now, when I started my journey, the biggest challenge I had was that there was lack of marketing material. There wasn't a lot, and I'd have to start from scratch and curate it myself. And for anyone in the media industry, you know, or a small business, you know how expensive it is to create content in terms of advertising, in terms of kind of print, etc. However, I was very fortunate because actually I launched the company in May, and in June, July, Imran Khan came into government in Pakistan, and tourism was a very big agenda item on his mandate. And because tourism was so big, it meant that actually there was an influx in terms of content being created, and you had an influx of vloggers who came in. And suddenly my job became easier because they created a lot of content and covered Pakistan far better than I do in terms of the videos, the meeting the people. So when I do my presentations, I leverage a lot from that content, and kind of hone in on those vloggers to help bring to life some of the holiday packages that I am promoting. Now, what I'm going to start and kick off doing, just also to let you know that since launch, we've won about 9 awards now. So we've won from Greater London Enterprise, the best Pakistan travel experience provider for 2 years running. We've also won best customer service by SME National, and we are platinum winners of the Prestige Awards for Adventure Tour Agency of the Year. And by platinum winners, that means that for the last 4 years consecutively, we are winning that award every year, something that I'm very proud of. And most importantly, which I'm going to see if I can't change the screen there. I'm going to move my camera there so you can see we are also members of Responsible Travel, which is something that I'm extremely proud of because of the work they do, and because of, kind of it makes sure that I'm constantly checking to make sure all my tours that I'm offering are kind of based on the values of giving back and ensuring that we take you to Pakistan in a responsible way and protecting the local and natural habitat as well. So I'm going to, as I said, over the next hour or so, I'm going to be taking you through the 16-day tour itinerary that we have of the slide that I started off. So the Pakistan Architecture and History Tour, it's one of our most popular tours that we do. We have 3 dates. 2 key dates are one for this year, which is on the 22nd of December, and then we have one for 16th of February for next year, and then we have another date coming up for next year in December. So as I said, over the next hour, I'm not going to go into detail in terms of the history, of each of the sites you see, but it's a whistle-top tour to give you an idea of what you can expect over the 16 days, what you will see, and then I'm going to end up with frequently asked questions, and obviously leave it to those of you who are watching live to ask me any questions in the comments box. So sorry, I'm just going to check. Hi Phil, nice to see you. Right, so before I do that, I'm going to add this video. It is a video that I absolutely love. I call it my magic video, and the reason being is because everyone who watches this video kind of ends up saying, wow, I did not know that. I'm going to just see if I can, so I'm going to shut up for a bit so you can watch the video. Let me just see if I can play the video. Okay.
My name is Ava, and I am a travel vlogger. Over the last year, I traveled Pakistan far and wide, north to south and east to west. My videos and content about the country have garnered millions of views, but I'm not here to talk about myself today. Today, I'm here to talk about what I've seen of Pakistan and what I believe the future of Pakistan's tourism can be. See, most of my Pakistani friends start to chuckle when I tell them this, but it's really no joke. I believe that Pakistan can be the world's #1 tourism destination. It really can. Let me give you a few arguments as to why I think so. Starting with the mountains of Pakistan, one of the greatest assets that nature has bestowed on this country. Beyond the current resorts of Malam Jaba and Naltar, why can't ski resorts dot the peaks of these mountains? And beyond that, looking at the beautiful landscapes of Skardu and Hunza and Sawat, why can't Pakistan become the next Bhutan or Nepal, with mountaineering and mountain trekking infrastructures that rival those of its neighboring countries? With 8 out of the world's 20 tallest mountains, this should be the epicenter of the world's trekking, adventure, and mountain tourism. And just look at the mountains of the south. This is Hingol National Park in Balochistan. Now, why can't this become the next Grand Canyon? Just imagine tourists trekking, hiking, and camping among these beautiful nature-made structures. And while we're in Balochistan, how can we forget about the beaches? The entire coast of the Arabian Sea, with the right attitude and vision, could become one of the world's prime beach destinations for all seasons. Imagine 5-star resorts, private islands, and beach shacks lining this beautiful coastline. Because, after all, Isn't it beautiful? And isn't it possible? Next up, culture and the arts. Both Sindh and the capital of culture, Lahore, have so much to offer. The craftsmanship and artistry and handicrafts that I've seen are unlike anywhere else in the world. This could be Pakistan's prime export. And imagine thousands, hundreds of thousands of tourists bringing bits of Pakistan with them back home to share with their communities. Religious tourism. Pakistan has such an incredible Islamic heritage. And I know that the Sufi trail of Sindh can appeal not just to Muslim tourists, but to any tourists interested in history and culture. Pakistan also happens to be the birthplace of Sikhism and the travels of Guru Nanak. It's also home to some of the most important Hindu sites in the world, as well as Buddhist stupas and remains of a rich Buddhist heritage. History. Why don't more people around the world know that Pakistan is where the world's oldest civilization, the Indus Valley Civilization, was found? Why can't Makli Necropolis, Ranakot Fort, or Mohenjo-Daro become the next Machu Picchu or Angkor Wat? What exactly is preventing Pakistan from becoming the world's top destination for history buffs? And of course, let's not forget about the food. Pakistan has such a rich culture of food and cuisines, and the diversity from province to province is just astonishing. Take Lahore and Karachi. Where are the Michelin-starred restaurants? Why can't these places become some of the world's top culinary hubs for foodie tourism? Well, this is my Pakistan. It's going to take so much time, effort, dedication, and investment to bring this vision into reality. But I know that the gifts that Pakistan has been blessed with are endless. This is how I see the future of tourism in Pakistan, and I hope that you share my vision.
So, I hope that you'll agree it's a video that I've seen numerous times, and I cannot tell you that I still love it, and I still get goosebumps when I watch it. Anyways, I'm going to crack on, and as I said, please feel free to ask questions. You don't have to wait till the end. So it's a 16-day tour, and the tour starts off in Islamabad. When people are booking this tour, one of the questions one of the things that I advise them is that when booking your ticket, please book a multi-city ticket. And what I mean by that is that the tour starts in Islamabad, but it ends in Karachi. Now, some people I know use their air miles with British Airways, which is fine because we can then arrange a domestic flight for you from Karachi back to Islamabad at the end of the tour. But please note that this tour actually is designed for a multi-city ticket, so starting in Islamabad and ending in Karachi. One of the other options you have is that you can actually kind of arrive the day before, so that you feel a bit fresh, but obviously that at the end I'll go through the prices. So this price is on the assumption that you arrive on day one in Islamabad. It doesn't account for an early check-in if you were to arrive the day before. So on the day you arrive, depending on kind of what time your flight arrives at, we basically allow you to an hour to a couple of hours to freshen up, take you back to the hotel. One of the key things that we do also is that when the driver comes, is that we basically take you to a local market, so you can get a local sim and help you basically take you to the local brewery exchange to exchange money. So that's a common question I get asked, that should we exchange money in advance, and I say probably not, because we know the local agents and where you get the best deal, and our kind of team and drivers are well aware of that, and we'll do that as a first kind of point of action when they pick you up. So some of the key attractions that you'll see are the Faisal Mosque. Faisal Mosque, that's the image that you can see on the slide at the moment. It's a beautiful kind of modern piece of architecture, and it was gifted to Pakistan by King Fahd of Saudi Arabia. Lok Versa Museum is another tour stop that we'll take you to. Because obviously I'm conscious of time, I'm not going to be going into the detail of everything, but what I will do is when I upload this video onto YouTube is share links where, as I said, Ava Zubek is one of my favourite vloggers, and she goes into a lot more depth about some of the different sites, and I think her videos do more justice. So as I said, this is more of a whistle-top tour to give you a flavour of some places you'll see. I shared Ava's videos, so some of the places that she showed you, you know, in terms of that Great Wall of China equivalent that you will be seeing on this specific tour. So Lok Vorsa Museum is an incredible cultural museum where you can see the local handicraft, and it's a celebration of all the different cultural aspects, from fashion to music to pottery, you know, that exists in Pakistan. You have then, we'll take you to see the Pakistan National Monument, Dam Nikor, which is a beautiful viewpoint in the Margala Hills. And then we will also take you to the Gurdwara Sharif Rail Museum, and we'll take you to see the Parliament House. And you can't go inside, but it will be just kind of to give you a look from the outside. Now, previously, about 15 years ago, you could go right up close to the buildings. Now, because of obviously the way the world has changed, and for security reasons, you can't go as close as you could, and there are some barriers, but it will give you a flavour of kind of, you know, where the Parliament Houses are positioned. And in the evening, to be honest, you know, we used to take everyone to Manal restaurant, from which you could get a beautiful panoramic view of Islamabad. Unfortunately, I just discovered that closed about a month ago. But there are lots of different kind of options, and Shakarpariya is one of the options, which is a beautiful kind of a recreation of what a village feels like, with kind of Pakistani street food, but it has a lot of variety in terms of choice of restaurants. But if you do it privately, obviously we can do it based on your choice. If it's part of a group, you know, once we have the group, we will share a few options, and you can collectively decide, because our view is very much it's your holiday, not ours, so it's for you to decide, and we're there to guide you with some of the options. So on day two is kind of where the whole the archaeology and the history aspects of the tour starts. So we'll take you to Taxila. Taxila is famous. It's a famous archaeology site. It is also a World Heritage Site, and it's known for its kind of Buddhist, monastery remains from the Buddhism era. Whilst Islam is predominantly the main religion in Pakistan, actually, because of its geographic location, you'll see particularly on this tour, a lot of influences of Hinduism, of Buddhism, and Christianity. And you know, a lot of it, the government has put a lot of effort to preserve those, because obviously that is part and parcel of Pakistan's history. We'll take you to see the Buddhist stupa, a monastery. We'll also take you to see some Taxila truck, a painting workshop. You know, one of the things famous for both Pakistan and India are our trucks. You know, are the flamboyant colours involved, and that's something that, you know, kind of a bit like, I suppose, you know, when you get in the Western world, you know, people go and wrap their cars because it's their sense of pride and joy. So in the same way, you know, for truck owners in Pakistan, you know, they like to decorate it. You know, often it's the expression of their creativity, and it's their way of, you know, putting across their personality and giving it a kind of a personal feel. And so yeah, we're kind of take you to not only watch it, but you can speak to some of the truck drivers as well, to get their, you know, thoughts and views of, you know, why they, you know, the inspiration behind the decoration. And as I said, you know, dinner, we can either take you to Shakarpariya if you haven't done it the night before, or there's plenty of options, both in Centaurus, the food court, or kind of in, you know, lots of other restaurants in the main Liberty area. And you know, kind of one of the, you know, things you'll discover when you're in Pakistan is that we are big foodies. And you know, sometimes I get people say we'd love to go to Pakistan, but we're not sure we can take the spice level. We're not sure that, you know, we can eat Pakistani food every day. And I laugh at that, because I'm thinking, you know, Pakistan isn't, you know, whilst of course, you know, Pakistani food is fantastic, but we have some of the best Chinese restaurants, some of the best Thai restaurants, Italian restaurants. So really, you know, much like, you know, London's is cosmopolitan in terms of the variety of restaurants on offer, Pakistan is no different. And what I love about the restaurants in Pakistan, that it's not just about the food. You know, as Pakistanis, we love the whole ambience, the decor, and every restaurant has its own personality. And that's what we're hoping, that over the 16 days, we can take you to a variety of restaurants so you can enjoy not just the Pakistani food, but also some of the Italian, the Chinese, because actually the Chinese food in Pakistan is very different to the Chinese food flavors that you would experience here. Both have their own lovely. Hi, Angela. No, there isn't. At the moment, it's just a static image, but there is a video, and I'll be sharing links where you can see other images as well. So I'm on slide 2. I'm hoping you can see slide 2. Now I'm going on to slide 3. So on day 3, we kind of take you from Islamabad, and we'll leave Islamabad, and we take you to Peshawar, which is my hometown. It's a beautiful city with lots of culture, and we take you to Peshawar via Dakhbai. Now, one of the key things I do have to point out is that currently Peshawar is a destination or a city on the FCO, which is basically advised against travel to. Now, having said that, I've had a number of clients who went to Peshawar last year. In fact, I had a client who went to Peshawar last month, and I have another client who's going to Peshawar kind of next week. So it's, the FCO does put it down. It's not, don't visit it, which I think it's a disservice to the city, because it makes it out like it's a war zone, which it's not. Peshawar is very safe. My whole family lives there. I was there 2 months ago. It's completely safe to walk around. I think one of the reasons why the FCO kind of says that is because geographically it's located next to Afghanistan, which, as I said, I think it's a bit unfair, because I think it would be fair to say that you can visit Peshawar, but don't go into X amount of kilometers to the border of Afghanistan. Now, that said, I know that tourism in Afghanistan has started as well, and there's a number of YouTube videos on that. So as I said, I'm not on the FCO board, so I can't really say for that, but I do need to flag that up, because and I will put a link that for insurance policy, not every insurer will cover Peshawar, but I think it's an insurance company called Black Packers or something like that. I'll share a link which does cover destinations that are off the beaten track, so Peshawar is covered in that. Anyways, that said, so on the day, as I said, we leave Islamabad and we take you to Dakhbai. Now, the drive from Islamabad to Dakhbai is about 2.5 hours, it's about 120 kilometers, and the kind of visit at Dakhbai will last about 3 hours. The guide you have on this tour is the same guide for the whole duration. All of our guides have over 30 years experience. They're very well versed in English, and they have a lot of knowledge in terms of, and what I love is it's not just knowledge, they have a lot of stories to tell, and therefore I kind of say no two tours have ever been identical. Every tour is different, because the guides tend to pick up quite quickly kind of a feeling of the group, of what they like, what they don't like, and often it's like, even though this is a template, you'll find that once you're in the country there'll be a lot of tweaks, because as I said, the guides are very receptive to knowing what you want from your holiday, and what kind of what you're interested in, and make sure that they're covering that off. So as I said, when I'm taking this is a template, a blueprint. There's so much more depth and detail which I can't cover, because every tour is different for that reason. And then from Dakhbai, kind of once you've done that, we will take you to Peshawar, which is about an hour and a half drive, so it's about 65 kilometers. And when you arrive in Peshawar, probably, the only thing that we cover on this day is the Peshawar Museum. Now, to manage your expectations, the Peshawar Museum is good because it gives you a flavour of kind of, some of the Buddhism history, some of the Sikhism history, but if you're well travelled, it's not as grand as perhaps some of the museums in Dubai or the UK. So probably 45 minutes in Peshawar Museum is more than enough. And I say that because I do want to manage expectations. I always prefer to undersell and over-deliver than oversell and under-deliver. In terms of the evening, so there's lots of kind of different options where you can eat. So depending on the group and how you're feeling on the evening, we, as I said, because it is my hometown and I'm very well versed in Peshawar, one of the popular places to go to is Army Stadium, which has kind of a nice selection of restaurants. One of them is Al Habibi, which has a really nice seating ambience because you can sit on the floor if you like, and depending on what day you go, there's some live music playing. Or Food Street, where kind of is, and you'll see lots of YouTube videos covered on that, and you can have a really authentic karai gosh and some chapli kebabs, which are dishes specifically to Peshawar. And as I said, if you're feeling too tired, we can do that on the next day because you are still in Peshawar on day 4. So day 4, that picture that you can see there is of Seti Mohalla. So Seti Mohalla is kind of it's a World Heritage Site. There are only 7 houses like this made within the Seti district. And the reason they're a World Heritage Site is because of the detail of the architecture. It's all wooden, it was all handmade. And I take a lot of pride in saying that because my grandfather, so from my maternal grandfather, was actually part of the Seti dynasty. As growing up, we would actually go there, and I remember playing hide and seek. And it's funny because when you're kids, you don't value things like this. And I remember we used to see some of the more modern houses, and we're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to stay in some modern houses? You actually can't stay in one of these houses now. As I said, the government has taken, they're now museum sites, and sometimes they are used for bridal photo shoots, also for some film productions. But when I took my kids there, I took a lot of pride and said, actually, I remember, we used to play hide and seek there. We would stay there when we would visit my grandparents. But yeah, something that I'm thinking, I was lucky, very fortunate, privileged to have done that. Other places that we'll take you to see is Qissa Khani Bazaar. So Qissa Khani, literally translated to English, means storyteller. And it was basically historically known as a hub. So Peshawar is kind of located as part of the Silk Route. So when you would have some of the tradesmen going from China, kind of taking their trades goods, crossing through Pakistan, this was a famous spot where the traders would sit. They'd sip away at Gava, which is the green tea in Peshawar, and you find lots of kind of Gava chai plates, stops and places where you can enjoy that. But they would then be exchanging stories about their business travel, their trade travels, hence the name Qissa Khani Bazaar. You've also got the Qilla Bala Hisar, which is the historic, the Hisar fort. We can't unfortunately take you inside, but you can have a look at it from the outside, and it is, as many forts are, a magnificent piece of architecture. And as I said, in the evening, there's a number of different restaurant choices on offer, and depending on how the group is feeling, we will share those options and take you. With Peshawar, as I said, I can guide you quite a lot, but with many of the other cities, the guides are very well versed, and as I said, know not just about the key popular places, but also something new that's open, something that everyone's kind of, the locals would know, but so something that's off the beaten track. So on day 5, we leave Peshawar and we start making our way to Lahore, but it's not a direct trip. So this is a long day, and I'll be honest, when I did it with kids, it's quite a tiring day, but it's an incredible day. So we take you, the 2 key attractions that you see are the Katas Raj Temple, which is a temple in which Hindus still visit on an annual basis for religious pilgrimage, and then we take you to see the Kevra salt mines. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just recovering from a cold. So we take you to see the Kevra salt mines. So that picture there is from the Kevra salt mines. And what's lovely is that within the salt mines, they've obviously lit it up, but they've made different monuments from the salt as well. Kevra salt mines are the 2nd largest salt mines in the world. The largest one is in Poland. And when you're making your journey to Kevra salt mines, you can pick up some Himalaya salts, which are really good for if you like your baths and for aching muscles and aching pains. You can also get some salt lamps as well, and some kind of salt candle holders as well. So there's a couple, there's a few shops that you can see when you're approaching. But as I said, it is a long day. The day starts at 7, and realistically, by the time we get to Lahore, you're looking at about 8 o'clock in the evening. So then in terms of the evening meal, again, it will be a case of touching base with all of you as a group, and then we can decide, which restaurant, whether you want to enjoy some of the street food, or whether actually everyone's too tired and you just kind of rather go to a nice restaurant with a nice air-conditioned ambience to it. So day 6, Lahore, to be honest, is after Peshawar, my favourite city, because it is full of culture. Pakistani love foodies, but Punjabis are basically the people of Lahore, because Lahore is based in the province of Punjab. Take kind of a passion for food, or foodie lovers to another level. I mean, I remember, Lahore really is a city that doesn't sleep. If at 3 in the morning you are hungry and you want to go, all the restaurants are open. It's alive and kicking. It's almost like the Lahore's day starts at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. So it's got a really nice buzz to it. The both days in Lahore are quite full on because culturally there is so much to see. So we'll take you to see Lahore's walled city. And I will try and upload links to that in my afterwards for you to have a look at some of the great architecture pieces that you can see, some of the great street food that you can enjoy. We will take you to see Lahore Fort, which was built by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. We'll also take you to that image there is of Badshahi Mosque. Badshahi Mosque, if I'm honest, I've been fortunate enough to see it at sunrise and at sunset, and at both times it's just a beautiful mosque to look at. I think of memory it's the 9th largest mosque in the world and has a capacity for about 400 kind of worshippers of memory, but I would have to fact check that. We will also then take you to Lahore Museum, and then we will end the day with something a bit more chillax to see Anarkali Bazaar. Anarkali Bazaar is one of the oldest surviving markets in Lahore, and you can get jewelry, clothes, and if you're looking for good deals from shopping at something that's quite authentic, Anarkali is the bazaar to go to. We will on the tour take you to kind of a more contemporary shopping mall as well. And part of the reason that one of the key focuses that I like to try and do on all my tours is to give you a holistic perspective of Pakistan, because I think one of the things that when people think Pakistan they think it's poor, poverty stricken, and whilst of course there is a huge part of the population that is poor, but actually there's a real opulent, very salubrious side for where the middle and upper class lives, and within my tours I try and show you both sides of Pakistan to really open your perspective of Pakistan is a lot more than mud-filled villages or some of the scenes that you see on BBC News when the floods hit Pakistan. So that's kind of day 6, and as I said, you'll notice on all of these pages I've not specified the restaurant because as I continue to emphasize, it's your holiday, so we take it on board of kind of how you're feeling and choose the restaurant accordingly on a day-by-day basis. So on day 7, that picture there is of the famous Wagah border. I'll kind of get to that in a second. So on day 7 we'll take you to see the Mausoleum of Jahangir and Nur Jahan, and we'll also take you to see Wazir Khan Mosque. Wazir Khan Mosque, I mean, if you like, I mean, I suspect most of you are going on this tour, you're going because you like architecture, a bit like me. I absolutely love architecture, but what I love about Mughal architecture is the intricate detail in the tiles, the design. I mean, I also love my photography, and kind of when you take pictures from any angle of Mughal architecture, I find there's always something different that you look at. You can see something 10 times, but every time you see it, you'll notice that small, that new small intricate detail, which unfortunately I think with modern architecture, whilst it's simple and contemporary, it's lost some of that feel. We'll also take you to the Shahi Hammam, which is a Persian-style bath and was built during the reign of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. So you can see there's a lot of influence of Mughal architecture in Lahore. Depending again how everyone's feeling and how hot it is on the day, we'll take you to Shalimar Garden. And the reason I say Shalimar Garden is optional is because we would then take you to Wagah border. Now, Wagah border I experienced back in 2018 for the first time. I can best describe it as it's Pakistan's equivalent of changing of the guard. So if you think about changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, which is all about kind of the whole grandeur of the soldiers marking, and it's a bit of a showmanship. It's the same, Wagah border is where kind of India and Pakistan meet, and it's literally within the province of Punjab with just a gate, and it's a whole kind of it's a whole drama where you've got the Indian and the Pakistani soldiers, kind of meeting in the middle and raising their flags and then lowering it. What I loved about it is actually how well humoured it is. You've got the Indian crowds and you can hear them cheering, and you've got the Pakistani crowds, and it's got such a nice energy and vibe to it. Everyone, on both sides is just enjoying the ambience. On the Pakistan side, you'll see it's a lot more about parades and marching, and kind of more national anthems. On India, as you'd expect, there's a lot more about Bollywood dancing. Now, I haven't obviously seen the Wagah border on the Indian side, but I have had some customers who have experienced the Wagah border on the Indian side, but also the Wagah border on the Pakistan side. And what they've said is that actually the Pakistan side is relatively quieter, and I suspect part of it may be to do with population. But so as I said, the reason Shalimar Garden is kind of optional, because with the Wagah border, we have to kind of get there by about 3:30. So although the ceremony starts at 4:30, but because of the nature of where it is, everyone's got to go through security, and that can take time, and often there's a queue as well. Once that kind of whole experience takes about a couple of hours. In the evening then, we have the option, which again we will discuss with the group, of either going to one of the malls, so you can see the more contemporary side of Lahore, but also you can enjoy Lahore by night, and there's a kind of really nice new side, modern side of Lahore, where you can enjoy some of the more contemporary mosques and actually see Lahore by night. And I think it's within the defence that they've actually got an artificial, or not a kind of Eiffel Tower replica, which is again worth looking at, and it's quite enjoyable to see at night because it's nicely lit up. So on day 8, we leave early. This is another long day because there's a lot of travel, a lot of time spent in the car. Now, don't be put off by the long durations, because obviously we do take lots of stops for you to be able to enjoy, stretch your legs, but also enjoy and take some pictures. So we'll be taking you to Harappa. That picture at the back is Harappa, which is the archaeology site, and kind of you don't have to, but those of you who are fit enough and want to, we take you up to the highest point, which is where the dome is, for you to be able to enjoy some photography. And the guide, as I said, takes you into a lot more depth and detail about the history, which is not something that I'm going to do in this presentation. After we've done that, we then go on to drive and take you to Multan. Now, in terms of Multan, there is a new restaurant which I've recently discovered. It's a beautiful. It's called, I think, Multan Oasis, because as the name suggests, it's kind of different restaurants, all built around a stream of water that's going. So that's something that we'll probably be adding on and recommending for you to enjoy and experience on the day you arrive, because I suspect by the time you get to Multan, you'll be tired, you won't want to be doing any sightseeing, and it'll be more a case of just relaxing and enjoying a nice meal. Day 9 is really spent in Multan, so the nice thing is there's actually not much driving in terms of long driving involved. There's lots to see in Multan. That image is of a pottery workshop. So Multan is also known for its Sufism, so you'll see that the architecture there, such as the Shrine of Sheikh Baha and Shrine of Shah Shams, has a lot of blue tiles to it. There's a lot of influence of Sufi architecture and Sufi kind of music as well. So in some of the shrines, if you're lucky enough, you'll see some local Sufi dancing. We have in the past been able to arrange for some local Sufi dancing in the evenings for our clients, but as I said, we kind of don't put that as a definite, because it is subject to availability and subject to what we are able to do. But 9 times out of 10, this can be arranged. We also get to take you to see some camel skin using Naksha painting, so you get to see how some of the camel skin is painted, and we'll take you to Delhi Gate. So there's a lot involved kind of in the day, but the nice thing about day 9 is it's all based in Multan, so there isn't that, you're not confined to long journeys in the car. That said, on day 10, you're back in the car. Bear in mind that this whole tour starts in Islamabad and ends in Karachi. So over the 16 days, there is obviously a fair bit of driving involved. At the back, the image you can see there is of the Ravara Fort. Now, I'm going to see if I can change. So if I change the angle of my camera, kind of that will actually give you, that image gives you a good idea of how huge the forts are. You can see the camel and the man, and the men there. And you can just see and compare of how tall these forts are. You get to see Julistan Desert, and depending if there are camels, there is the option to enjoy a camel ride while it's there. In terms of driving time, as I said, from Multan to Dharawal Fort, it's about a 3-hour drive, so 200 kilometers. And from Dharawal Fort to Bahawalpur, which will be your end destination for day 10, it's about a couple of hours drive. On day 11, this is basically Bibi Javandi tomb. It's a beautiful piece of architecture, which unfortunately, as you can see, it's just the remains left. Some of it is due to weather conditions, and unfortunately it's just not been preserved. But you know, the remains, you know, I sometimes think, you know, if you were to visualize and think of how grand it must have been when it actually was in its, you know, purest form. Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, sometimes I think in hindsight you think, if only it had been preserved. So the other, you know, this day is really all about seeing a variety of different shrines. So there's a lot more kind of history and architecture on this day as well. And as I said, the guides are very knowledgeable and will go into a lot more detail than I will about kind of the history behind the shrines. On day 12, we leave and we go from Sukhar to Mohenjo-daro and to Sivan Sharif. Now, Mohenjo-daro is basically it's an archaeology site, and it is basically kind of famous because it's where the Indus civilization used to live as well. You've also got the shrine of the Lal Shahbaz Qalandar, and in the evening, as I said, we will try and arrange some Sufi dances for you to enjoy. The day will be paced, but you can see that there is about 5.5 hours of driving involved, so there's a lot of time spent in the car. On day 13, we take you from Sevan Sharif to Rani Court Fort. So Rani Court Fort, you saw in Ava Zubek's video, you know, it's almost Sindh's equivalent of the Great Wall of, you know, you have the Great Wall of China, so this is the Great Wall of Sindh. And it's just a shame that the world is not discovered. You know, not forget the world, even Pakistanis, many around the world are unaware of some of these great archaeology sites that basically exist in Pakistan. On day 14, we kind of leave. We leave Hyderabad on day 14 and start making our way to Karachi. So this is we're coming towards the end of the trip. So some of the things we take you to enjoy the Shah Jahan Mosque Tata. We also take you to see some of the Bombay archaeology sites and to the Chokandi tombs. What you will find, and this is one of the things that my customers who have been on this tour said, is, and I've seen it on some of the YouTube videos, it's in the middle of nowhere, some of these sites, and you will literally be the only tourist there. And it's a shame because some of these sites probably only have about 20 or 30 tourists a year. Now, I'll put it into context, you know, the average kind of international tourism for most countries accounts for 10% of their GDP. In Pakistan, it's only 2% of GDP. And of that international tourism, that also factors in the diaspora who are visiting Pakistan. So that, as I said, isn't pure tourism. In terms of pure tourism, we'll probably count about 0.5%. So a lot of these sites that you visit, you'll find often you'll be the only one. Now, selfishly, the great thing is it means you'll have some great pictures, because it means you'll have pictures with, you know, you won't have crowds of people behind you, and you can actually really get the whole, you know, the archaeology sites or the architecture of the mosque in the shot, which is what's fantastic about it. So yeah, that's I think actually that's a plus point, because a lot of the customers that come back say that actually what we loved most about this tour was the fact that we didn't see any foreigners along the way, that we were the only foreigners. And that's, I think, why I say that Pakistan is so off the beaten track that going to it now, the nice thing is, you know, you're still enjoying the authentic country. It's not being overly commercialized or overly westernized because of obviously commercial tourism. So in terms of the driving, there's a lot of time spent on the car here. So again, from Hyderabad to Shah Jahan Mosque, it's about 100 kilometers, about an hour and a half drive. We then go from Jahan Mosque to Makli Hills, which is about 3.5 kilometers. That's only a 10-minute drive. But really the longest drive is, I'm going to change the angle of my camera again, so you can see, is really from kind of Chakli Tombs to Karachi, which is about an hour's drive. Now, the good thing is that most of the road conditions are very good. So actually, the drive itself is very comfortable. There's no broken roads. There's nothing like that. So you won't, So whilst they're long drives, they're actually very comfortable drives, and the cars we use are all kind of only 2-3 years old, fully air conditioned. So it's a very comfortable journey. Now, going to the last kind of destination. So after that, day 15. You finally day 14 in the evening we end up in Karachi, but by the time we end up in Karachi it's quite late, so it's more a case of just having a meal. Although that said, one of the things that we are timing, and it's something that I discovered recently, so Bahria is a kind of every city in Pakistan has a town by the name of Bahria, Bahria. So Bahria is basically these new modern towns that have been built, which when you enter, to be honest, don't feel like you're in Pakistan, because they're it is really for the upper and elite class. They're very contemporary. The housing, the architecture there is incredible. But in Karachi specifically, they actually have the night bus, because within Bahria they've made, so I think they've got a dancing fountain there. They've got some other key monuments which actually are so off the beaten track that most actually I think most tourists never go there and aren't even aware of it. As it's something I discovered 2-3 months ago, so we've added it so that when you arrive on day 14 in the evening, we take you to go on this night bus tour, which is about a couple of hours, and you get to see the whole of Bahria. And for me it's nice because it gives you a different perspective of Pakistan, but a different perspective of Karachi. Now I'll be honest, Karachi, my husband's from Karachi. As I said, I'm not from Karachi, but I went to Karachi in May and I spent 4 days there because I've never been a big fan of Karachi, and I always struggle selling Karachi to customers and telling them what there is to see and do, partly because I don't know, but I deliberately went there for 4 days to try and explore. So what you'll notice on day 15, you've got the National Museum, the Frere Hall, Mahota Palace, Tuba Mosque, Quaid-e-Azam. So when you look at that, you think, wow, that's a lot. It's going to be. But actually, having done that, to be honest, it's fair. So, for example, Frere Hall, it's a gallery, or it's a hall where, when the British Empire used to rule over Pakistan, that's where they would have their ballroom dancing or tap dancing, and obviously the Pakistanis weren't allowed there. It's now become an exhibition hall where you've got kind of art galleries and kind of that you can go and enjoy. But to be honest, the whole experience, actually half an hour is more than enough. Similarly, Quaid-e-Azam tomb, about an hour is more than enough. The Quaid-e-Azam's museum that we take, which is kind of where he used to live, and they've made that a museum. Again, it's quite small, so probably about 45 minutes, an hour is more than enough. So a lot of these things, whilst it looks like it's a lot, actually because they're quite small and proximity wise they're not too far from one another, actually it's fairly doable in a pleasurable way, so you're not rushed in any way. But kind of the other thing I discovered was Port Grand, which is, if you've been to Disney Springs in the US, it's almost like a Disney Springs, but I don't want to put you off that it's not Americanized. But what's lovely about Port Grand is it's built by the Arabian Sea, so you can see the port, but it's a really nice, basically a food eatery. So it's a paved, pedestrianised area where you can go to, there's no cars, and you can enjoy Chinese, barbecue, nahari, halim, traditional Pakistani food. You can have kind of Lebanese food, you can have Chinese food, burgers, they've got everything, but they've also got kind of a really nice ambience of a stage where there's live music. But there was this lovely old man there that plays the sitar, and they're Bollywood classics, but when you're sitting on the rooftop enjoying the meal, you can hear the music in the background. And that for me is, as I said, something I discovered on my trip, and I thought, why aren't we taking our clients there? So I've definitely made sure that's included in the itinerary. Another place that I discovered in Karachi was, I've forgotten the name of it, Sea Salt Cafe. Now, Sea Salt Cafe is really something that only the locals know about, and I got to know about it because my cousin's son, who's a local there, told me about it. And what is beautiful about it, apart from the fact that at the time I had food poisoning, so I couldn't eat a lot, but I had their mushroom soup, and it was absolutely delicious. It was one of the best mushroom soups I had. But what's beautiful about it is that it's by Clifton Beach, but the sunset, so we will time it so you get there for 5:30, so you can get your spot in the cafe, and then around between 6 and 6:30 is when sunset starts there. it gives you a beautiful view of the sunset over the sea that's completely uninterrupted, because it's a private beach for the residents of that area of like Imara. That it's not overly commercialized, so you get a beautiful view, and that's a destination or stop that we've added. As I said, I mean, the trip to Karachi was really good because I got to see some real nuggets which aren't on your typical itinerary, but I've ensured it's included because as I said, I want you to see Pakistan, the traditional, the culture side, of course, but also some of the new up and coming places, the other side of how the elite or the upper class live as well. So that really kind of brings us to the end of the tour, and day 16 is basically we arrange for your airport transfers to take you back to your airport, for you to go back to the destinations that you have come from. If you haven't got a multi-city airline ticket, then as I said, we can arrange for a domestic flight for you to fly you from Karachi back to Islamabad, but please note that that's not included in the price. So how much is the tour? Now, we always try and be as competitive as possible, but there is a threshold in terms of the hotels that we work with below which we won't go, and the reason I do that is because my key motivation for Experience Pakistan is not about making loads of money. It's about trying to get as many people to Pakistan as possible, and for people to leave Pakistan as brand ambassadors, not of my company Experience Pakistan, but brand ambassadors of Pakistan, telling their friends you have to go and visit it. And the best way I can do that is to make sure that I'm taking you to comfortable hotels. So they're not always, it's just we have got budget. So by budget it means it won't necessarily have all the bells and whistles, but it will still meet a minimum hygiene standard to ensure that you're not getting food poisoning. That there is a certain level of customer service, and you're still walking away happy with your experience. So we've got different prices there. So the semi-deluxe, if it's a group of 2, it's £3,850 per person. If we are able to get 4 to 6 people, the price drops down to £3,250. Now, one of the questions I had recently is that if you have a group and half of you want to do semi-deluxe and half of you say, well, actually we want to go in that, but we can't afford the semi-deluxe, so can we do the budget? Absolutely. We can arrange for the transportation to then pick and drop you from the different hotels, so you can still be part of that group date, and you don't feel that you're restricted to being part of the semi-deluxe. You can go for the lower budget option and still be part of that group. There is a single supplement, as with all holidays, and obviously the single supplement is reflective of the fact that you have in your own room. And as I said, there's the early check-in. So if, for example, you decided that you wanted to come to Pakistan the day before the tour actually starts, or your flight, for example, arrives 3 in the morning and you want to go up to the hotel, then early check-in counts. So basically, an early check-in is if you are going to the hotel and you want to use a room before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that would be classified as an early check-in, and then that's the rate that you would have to pay depending on which hotel you're staying in. So the price based includes the accommodation, an English-speaking guide. It includes private transportation throughout the trip. It also includes all the entry fees for the excursions. It includes breakfast, and the key thing, obviously, it does include lunch and dinner, and we do that deliberately. Because I think it'll be cheaper if we don't include lunch and dinner, but also when you're out and about hungry, you want this flexibility, spontaneity to be able to pick up and eat something. Whereas if we were to do everything, then you're restricted, and the last thing you want to be on a holiday is restricted by the food choices. It excludes the international flights. Now, in terms of the airlines that go to Pakistan, there are a number of airlines that go. British Airways is the only flight that goes direct, and it goes into Islamabad. Other than that, you've got Turkish Airlines, you've got all the Arab airlines, so Emirates, you've got Gulf, you've got Etihad, you've got Oman Airlines. I recently discovered Ethiopian Airline flies in, but Ethiopian Airline flies into Karachi at the moment, that's it. Now, one of the things also you might want to consider, because whilst this is a fantastic tour, because of the long days, it is tiring. So if, for example, you went with Emirates, you've got the option that you could probably maybe add 2 or 3 days in Dubai at the end of your holiday, which you might want to do, just so you can relax a bit before, and that's assuming, if you're retired or you've got work flex to do that. So that might be something you might want to consider, whether that's in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or something, is just having maybe a couple of days to relax at the end. So, in terms of the hotels, before I go to hotels, group tour dates. So, as I said, this is a 16 group tour date. We do have a departure for this year at on the 22nd of December. At the moment, I have one person interested. Now, it's a guaranteed departure based on two people. That is subject to the two people being happy to pay the price based on two people. For the date 16th of February, at the moment, we have got 3 confirmed people on that tour. So that, as I said, is a guaranteed departure. So you, if you wanted to add on or add yourself to that group, just let me know and get in touch. And then we have another date for next year, which is from the 10th to 26th of October. And currently at the moment, we don't have any bookings for that tour. As I said, the group tour, the maximum size we would ever go to is 6, because part of it is about kind of making sure that you're all having a good time. I think, when you've got too many people, you can end up having too many different opinions. It can end up being a bit of a drag, and I think sometimes less is more. And it's enough to have the sociability aspect, but not overwhelming where you're thinking things are slowing down or there's too many different opinions. So in terms of the hotels, so you can have a look here. Semi-deluxe, you'll be staying at hotels like Rumi Signature in Islamabad, the Ambience Hotel in Lahore. I stayed in the Ambience Hotel in, just noticed a typo, the Ambience Hotel in Karachi. It's absolutely lovely. So the Ambience Hotel is not a chain hotel, it's more like a boutique guest house. But what's lovely is that every room has its own character. So that picture is actually from their kind of reception, their lobby. But it's not even just the room. The customer service was incredible. Everyone, because it's a small boutique hotel, I think there's 33 rooms in total. Everyone knows everyone. But what was a real testament is that when I went and had breakfast, that there were a few customers there, and they were regulars. There were people who kind of come to Karachi for work or business and always stay at the Ambience. I think it was a 4th or 5th time. And when you've got repeat customers who are doing that really, kind of speaks volumes. On the other side, you'll see that with the budget hotel, so as I said, budget is probably not an unfair word. Budget means is kind of maybe kind of a cheaper hotel, but budget is not like really like cheap as chips or poor standard. It's still a decent standard. And hotels, we're using a Hillview Hotel in Islamabad, in Lahore, Luxus Grand. Again, if you were to Google Luxus Grand on booking.com, something you'd see it's a lovely hotel. Pilates Grand is a lovely hotel as well. And I'm just going to see if I can take that. And then Miran Hotel in Karachi. So, if you just go ahead. So, what do some of the customers say? So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my camera off so you can just see the screen, and I'll read it in case some of you can't see it on the screen. So, basic comments that we've had is it's one of the best holidays we've had. It was lovely not to see so many foreigners, but what drew us was the hospitality of the people of Pakistan. Peshawar, despite being a place advised against travel by the FCO, was one of our favourites because of the rich culture and warmth of the people. So this was from Paul and Tara, who travelled with us. They actually did a 21-day tour because they added a few rest days with us last year. And as I said, they kind of love their history and they love their architecture, and there was some specific things that they wanted to see that we added in their tour as well. Kathy, a lovely customer from Australia, she did this tour as a solo traveller, and I suppose hopefully this instills some confidence, because one of the questions I get from women specifically is is Pakistan safe to travel to as a solo female traveller? Absolutely, like any destination, as long as you do it in a sensible way. So in our case, if you're a solo female traveller with us, you would always have a driver and guide with you, so you're not really ever going to be left to your own devices. That said, if you were to wander around Islamabad or Lahore by yourself, it's absolutely fine. The key cities, many women travel there by themselves. And again, if you were to go onto YouTube, there's lots of young female vloggers coming to Pakistan and actually doing it backpacking style and doing it by themselves. So it is very safe to do so. So Kathy basically said, I love just about everything in my tour. The guide was very knowledgeable and extremely flexible in catering for my needs. Thank you, Sadiq, for putting so much effort in planning my itinerary and managing every component. It has been a truly memorable trip in which I have learned so much about the history and customs. And of course, there was a lot more, but I've just taken some of the sound bites from a couple of these. So I'm just going to go on to talk about frequently asked questions. Of course, at this point, if you have any questions that you feel I've not covered, please, feel free to ask. So is Pakistan safe? Now, Um, right, so unfortunately, as I thought so, because of the way StreamYard works, I haven't been able to take the video on this, but this is obviously Kathy. She travelled with us, and I will see if there's a way that I can upload a separate video onto the YouTube for you to have a look at. And Kathy's feeling was basically that, you know, when she walked around, is that she didn't feel unsafe. Yes, that you will get a lot of people looking at you out of curiosity, because remember, Pakistan doesn't have very many foreigners, so when foreigners do come, there's a lot of intrigue and interest by the locals, because they're very appreciative about the fact that you've taken time and effort to visit Pakistan, but also they kind of are intrigued and then want to ask you questions, and so you get a lot of people who want to take selfies with you. I think much like China, you know, where Chinese people love to take selfies with you as well, and Pakistan's no different, but they mean no harm by it. And that's kind of ultimately what Kathy kind of said, that, you know, she didn't feel uncomfortable or unsafe, but obviously, you know, kind of she was just aware that, you know, people want to take selfies, and that was fine. This is not my customer, Stephen Walton, but he had visited Pakistan and follows me on Facebook. And for an event I did at the presentation I did at the Luxury Travel Show, he kindly recorded this video, which unfortunately I can't play because it's just uploaded as static. It's just uploaded as a static image. But again, his testament was, you know, they didn't do this tour. They actually went to North Pakistan, so they did Hunza, Skardu, Swat many years ago. It was him and his wife. But again, his sentiment was very much that Pakistan was very safe. You know, it's one of those things, as long as you do it sensibly, so either with a local friend who knows the country, or with a reputable company. So it doesn't necessarily have to be with Experience Pakistan, but it has to be a reputable travel company who know their stuff, who will kind of have experience in it. Then it's absolutely safe and fine to travel around Pakistan. So, do I have to wear a scarf? Pakistan is a Muslim country, but it's a progressive Muslim country. The only time you really have to wear a scarf is when you enter a mosque, out of respect. Other than that, no. Some of the areas, some of the villages, for example, Multan and more remote areas, where perhaps they're not as progressive and they're not as used to seeing foreigners, you know, maybe just a light headscarf. In terms of, you know, attire, it's more about what the clothing you wear. You can wear Western clothing; it's not a problem. But like any Muslim countries, you know, when you go to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, it's be sensible. So no low necklines, no short, you know, kind of no short skirts. You can wear a skirt as long as it's past your knees, and avoid wearing, you know, sleeveless tops. Avoid wearing, you know, figure hugging clothes. Now that said, as I said, when you're in the main cities like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, actually you'll see a lot of the locals wearing Western clothes as well, and some of the Pakistani clothes, you know, is quite progressive in terms of, you know, their cuts and everything. But it's more when you're kind of in Peshawar, so Peshawar is a conservative town, is wearing a light headscarf and just being, you know, I suppose modest in your attire is the best way to describe of how you should dress in Pakistan. So just these are just some pictures of a couple of the females obviously who went on, so you can see, you know, what they're wearing, and that will give you a good flavour and good idea of the kind of clothes that you can wear or you should wear. Is there much on offer for vegetarians? Now, honestly, Pakistan is a meat-eating country. However, every restaurant there is an option, you know, so you will have some lentils, you'll have some spinach, some potato dishes, some, you know, naans. But are there, like, you know, vegan, vegetarian specialist restaurants, or, you know, is there a wide array of menu options? Probably not. There might be a few, because I know that, you know, in the cities certainly they do follow the international trends, and, you know, so veganism and vegetarian, you know, there are some vegan, vegetarian friendly places in Islamabad, in some city areas, but when you're in more remote areas like Hyderabad and Multan, you know, you're relying on, you know, kind of lentils or something. It's on the menu, there'll probably be 2-3 items. It's not going to be a whole specialism that they have for vegetarians or vegans. Can I get round Pakistan by myself? Sorry, I've just put myself back on the screen so you can see me. Yes and no. So when I say yes and no, you know, when you're travelling to the major cities like Islamabad, Lahore, they've got a really good metro bus system. They've got a good rickshaw system. So do you know what? If you didn't want my services and you wanted to go to see the cities by yourself, absolutely can. Could you do this tour by yourself? It would be challenging. And I say it would be challenging because the infrastructure in terms of travel between the cities is not great. Now, you can use trains, Um, and I've seen some vloggers who are backpacking and they're using the public transport system. Absolutely. So it depends on what kind of, if you want a comfortable luxury travel where you've got your private car, then you travel with us. If actually you are quite adventurous and you're happy to get your guide and map your own way around, you can. It would take you longer than 16 days because of the way the train connections and everything work. And you would have to make sure that you do a fair bit of homework to map out kind of when the trains come in, connections and everything. So all in all, if it's just a single city, yes, you can do it by yourself. If it's just Islamabad and Lahore, absolutely. But if you want to do something like this itinerary, it's a challenge. What's the visa process now? The good thing is, back in August of this year, to promote tourism and to make tourism easier, both in terms of travel tourism and business travel, what the government of Pakistan have done for 130 countries, of which UK is one of them, is that they have introduced a new visa system, which is basically visa on arrival. So for visa on arrival, you only have to apply for it 24 hours before, and I think you get it within a couple of hours. It's free, so there's no cost, no charge involved. If you go on my website, experiencepakistan.com, I will post it on the comment box, but I will otherwise also put it on the link at the video below once I have the recording of this. So that it's just there. You can actually, I have a link on my homepage, so that which will take you to the link of how to go about applying for your visa. And that really is kind of the end of the long presentation. As I appreciate there's a lot of information there. As I've gone along, I've tried to cover as many of questions that have come up from previous customers that I can think of. If I can see that there are 3 people watching this, I'm not sure, Phil, if you're still there, or Angela, if you're still there. So if you've got any questions that you feel I haven't covered off, please feel free to ask. I'll hang around for another 5 minutes or so, and if there aren't any questions, I'll just end this, and I will then share the screen record later on. So I hope you found that of interest. I will be doing one next Wednesday as well. So basically every Wednesday between, today was the first one, I have another 2 presentations I will be doing. So next Wednesday I will be covering the northern side of Pakistan, so that's covering Hunza, Skardu, what the itinerary covers. It will be the same time, hopefully next week. I'll be a bit more organised, and I will start at 6:30 on the dot, and then the following Wednesday at 6:30 again I'll be covering what I call the hybrid tour. So it kind of entails a bit of the city side and a bit of the northern areas as well. So it's a fusion of the two. Now, one of the key things that I just wanted to say about this tour, as I said, it is 16 days. In terms of the payment, so the payment options at work as follows. If you wanted to go on one of the group tours where at the moment we have no booking, yeah, Phil, go ahead. Let me know what the questions are. I'll just finish off this point. So at this point, if you wanted to go for a date where we don't have another group booking, all we request is a £200 deposit. The reason for the £200 deposit is so that we know that you are committed to that date, and it makes sure that when we get someone else inquired, we can say, right, now that you're on, if you're happy to pay the price based on 2 people, it's a guaranteed departure. That £200 is fully refundable. There's no admin fee, nothing taken off, unless you're an international client, of which then the only thing that will be taken off is any banking charges. So if that tour doesn't go ahead. Now, the other option is when you pay a deposit, you say you're interested, we do then give you the option that if we can't do the date that you would like to go on, but we have, for example, like 16th of February, I know that there's 3 people booked, I would then say to you, well, Phil, for example, for argument's sake, Phil, would you like to join that group? And then you can add, you can go to that group. But as I said, just because you pay a £200 deposit, that is not, there's no T's and C's. Yes, Phil, photography is welcome. We kind of are a country of selfie lovers. We love pictures. I think it's Phil, one of those things is, as with any place, it's just being respectful, asking, bring. I think that it's very the people of Pakistan are very familiar with lots of people taking pictures, and when I say lots of people, not necessarily obviously foreigners, but locals. But again, with foreigners, I think they, yeah, most of them, certainly in Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, the key cities are fine. I think in the more rural areas like Hyderabad, Peshawar, certainly Multan, I think if it's men, it's okay. Where there's women involved, it would be, I think it would be err on the side of caution. So for example, it says I'm from Peshawar, which is quite conservative, so I don't think it would be welcome for you to be kind of specifically focusing in on a woman. If you were taking a picture of, let's say, of a city and there's a woman that happened to come in it, that's absolutely fine. But if, for example, where sometimes people like people photography, and there was, a female, because of the way she's wearing the headscarf, and you want to take a picture, no, I would advise against it. As I said, in Lahore, Islamabad, Karachi, they're a bit more progressive. So if you ask permission, they're a bit more open-minded, and will probably say, yeah, that's fine. We're happy for you to take a picture or get in a picture. But yeah, people in the street generically, if it's, as I said, a wide-angle picture, that's absolutely fine. And Phil, you had another question. I'll wait for your second question. Okay, so on this specific tour, there's no high altitude. The tour that I'm talking about next week is where we're going up into the mountains. This one, as I said, this is more for an urban city tour. So you're starting from Islamabad and going down to Karachi. So literally, there is no altitude in this at all. So you don't have to worry about altitude sickness. The tour that I'm going to be covering next week, if you get altitude sickness, is probably something I'd advise against. I'm just trying to think if there's any other questions which I haven't covered off that I can think of. I think one of the things I haven't covered off is just to let you know of how we operate is before you travel. So for example, I have got Pam and her friend, they're leaving this Friday. So we always create a WhatsApp group with all of our clients 3 weeks before they're due to travel. And the WhatsApp group basically has yourself in it. So basically all the group attendees. It has me, it has the guide that you're going to have in Pakistan, and the managing director of the operations who manage it for Experience Pakistan in Pakistan. And the reason we create this WhatsApp group is to give you reassurance that I'm contactable throughout your trip. And we have had some issues in the past, so I'll be honest, not everything is always plain sailing, but it means that it gives you reassurance that it's not a case of I've taken your money and I've said see you later, and that until you don't return back to London safely, you are still my responsibility. So if although the team in Pakistan are very good, so you can speak to them and they're normally very quick to respond, but if you don't feel comfortable or you find there's some kind of language barrier or something, you can always WhatsApp me, and obviously I'm constantly on alert whenever any of my clients go to Pakistan throughout their duration. The other reason we create that WhatsApp group is because it enables you to say hello to the team and the guide, before you go. So when you get to the airport, you've already said your hellos, you've got reassurance that you're in communication with the guide. So if there's any problem with your luggage coming out late or they're stuck in traffic, you've got each other's contact details to communicate with. Now, in the case of a group, with everyone's consent and permission, obviously based on GDPR, we would obviously try and arrange if you're all local, a face-to-face meetup. If not, a Zoom call with all of the people as part of the group. And again, part of the reason is so that you can all kind of say hello to each other, know each other, and there isn't this, kind of daunting just turning up in Islamabad and trying to figure out, who's who. It's always nice that actually, it's also nice that if you know beforehand, you might want to work and coordinate with each other and get similar flights where you're flying in together. I'm not saying you have to, but that's one way to do it. The other question actually they haven't covered off, so people ask me, can I do flights? I can't do flights because I don't have an actual license. Now that said, the best place to get flights I find is Skyscanner. I'll put it in the comments here. So Skyscanner, I'm just going to type it in the comments box. I think it's skyscanner.com. Now normally they give you the best price. So Skyscanner, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a bit like a Go Compare type website. So you would just type in the dates you want to travel, the city you want to land in, etc. And then it will give you a kind of whole list of different airlines that are offering and the different prices, from the cheapest to obviously the most expensive. The only thing I think that maybe you can't do Skyscanner actually is a multi-city ticket. So if you wanted a multi-city ticket, one of the travel agents I've used in the past is Travel Up. In fact, every time I tend to use Skyscanner, and most of the time I think the last 4 times I've ended up buying the ticket from Travel Up, because Travel Up was the travel agent that came up in Skyscanner with the cheapest ticket. And so you may want to try, call it Travel Up to get a multi-city ticket. So I think that's it. My throat is getting really dry. I could do with a glass of water. I hope you found that useful. And as always, just because this stream is ending, you can comment either on this later on, or if you watch this afterwards. For those of you who are watching as a recording, I'm also going to just put my email address, so you can contact me via email if you've got any questions. But I hope that's thorough enough, and I hope that's given you a really good flavour of what you can enjoy in Pakistan. And I'm going to end it with a final video for you to watch, which is, I'm just going to see if I can put it on now. So just to leave you all with this final video to watch now. So if I can do that. Okay, and that is really the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for those of you who joined, and thank you for those of you who stayed on till the end. And yeah, Phil, I appreciate there's lots there to think about. So as I said, if there's any other questions that come up, I've shared my email address. Please feel free to get in touch. You can also give me a call on 0203 150 1444. So if you want to have a separate telephone call or a video call, I'm more than happy to do that. Thank you again so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Bye bye.